Top 10 points about how Gary Ridgway became America's deadliest serial killer. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into the chilling story of Gary Ridgway, America's deadliest serial killer. Stay tuned as we uncover the top 10 shocking revelations about how Ridgway became one of the most notorious criminals in history. Number 10. The early years from ordinary life to a dark path. Gary Ridgway's journey from a seemingly normal childhood to becoming America's deadliest serial killer began in his early years. Growing up in a middle-class family in Seattle, Ridgway appeared to lead an ordinary life. However, beneath the surface, there were troubling signs that hinted at his future descent into darkness. His childhood was marked by behavioral issues and an unsettling fascination with death, which laid the groundwork for his later crimes. As we delve into his early life, it's crucial to ask, what early experiences or influences contributed to Ridgway's transformation into a notorious killer, and how did these factors shape his future actions? Number 9. The escalation of violence. From minor crimes to serial killing. Ridgway's transition from petty criminal activities to committing murder was marked by a disturbing escalation of violence. Initially, Ridgway engaged in minor criminal behavior, such as theft and vandalism. However, as he grew older, his criminal activities took a more sinister turn. His first murder was a significant shift from his earlier offenses, marking the beginning of a spree that would make him one of the most prolific serial killers in American history. The progression of Ridgway's criminal behavior raises important questions. What drove him to escalate from minor crimes to the brutal acts of murder? And what factors enabled him to continue his killing spree undetected for so long? Number 8. The role of victim selection. How Ridgway chose his targets. Gary Ridgway's methodical approach to choosing his victims played a critical role in his success as a serial killer. Ridgway predominantly targeted vulnerable women, often those involved in prostitution or struggling with addiction. His selection of victims was both strategic and calculated, allowing him to prey on individuals who were less likely to be missed or receive significant media attention. This targeting strategy not only facilitated Ridgway's ability to avoid detection, but also contributed to the tragic scale of his crimes. Examining his victim selection process provides insight into how Ridgway managed to evade capture for so long and underscores the disturbing nature of his crimes. How did his choice of victims influence his criminal activities and impact law enforcement's ability to apprehend him? Number 7. The use of MEO, Ridgway's signature methods. Gary Ridgway developed a distinct modus operandi MO that became a hallmark of his killing spree. Ridgway's method included luring his victims to his vehicle, then driving them to remote locations where he would commit the murders. He often employed a combination of strangulation and stabbing, which became his signature methods. The use of his MO allowed Ridgway to create a pattern that, while initially helping him evade capture, eventually contributed to the evidence that linked him to the crimes. Understanding Ridgway's methods offers a chilling look into how his approach to killing became both his trademark and his undoing. How did his MO evolve over time? And how did it affect the investigation into his crimes? Number 6. The overlooked clues. How Ridgway evaded detection. Gary Ridgway's ability to evade detection for over 2 decades was due in part to his cunning manipulation of the investigative process. Despite numerous clues and evidence pointing towards a serial killer in the Seattle area, Ridgway managed to avoid arrest by exploiting various weaknesses in law enforcement practices. He meticulously covered his tracks, often choosing locations and methods that minimize forensic evidence. Additionally, the lack of a consistent pattern in his killings led to difficulties in linking the murders. The challenges faced by investigators highlight how Ridgway's strategic evasion tactics allowed him to continue his reign of terror. What were the critical factors that enabled Ridgway to remain undetected for so long, and how did his actions influence investigative techniques? Number 5. The personal motivations. What drove Ridgway to kill? Understanding Gary Ridgway's personal motivations offers insight into the mind of America's deadliest serial killer. Ridgway's motivations were complex, involving a mix of personal grievances, psychological issues, and a desire for control. He often claimed that his murders were motivated by a need to eliminate what he considered undesirable elements from society, reflecting a disturbing sense of justification. Additionally, Ridgway's troubled personal life, including failed relationships and a troubled upbringing, contributed to his motivations. Exploring these personal factors provides a deeper understanding of the psychological and emotional drivers behind Ridgway's criminal actions. What internal and external influences played a role in shaping Ridgway's motivations, and how did they contribute to his criminal behavior? Number 4. The impact of Ridgway's crimes, the effect on victims' families. The impact of Gary Ridgway's crimes extended far beyond the immediate act of murder, deeply affecting the families and communities of his victims. The prolonged period of uncertainty and grief experienced by the families of Ridgway's victims was compounded by the difficulty of finding closure. The families had to cope with the trauma of losing loved ones in such a brutal manner, while also grappling with the lengthy process of the investigation. The emotional and psychological toll on the victims' families underscores the far-reaching consequences of Ridgway's actions. How did Ridgway's crimes affect the families of his victims? And what steps were taken to support them during the investigation and aftermath? Number 3. The arrest and conviction. How Ridgway was finally caught. Gary Ridgway's arrest and subsequent conviction marked the end of his long-running killing spree. After years of investigation, law enforcement finally captured Ridgway in 2001, largely due to advancements in forensic technology and the development of a DNA profile. Ridgway's arrest was a major breakthrough in a case that had puzzled investigators for decades. During his trial, Ridgway confessed to 71 murders, providing chilling details about his crimes. His conviction was a significant moment in criminal justice, offering a sense of justice and closure to the victims' families. The arrest and conviction process reveals the complexities of catching a serial killer and highlights the role of forensic advancements in solving such cases. What were the key factors that led to Ridgway's capture, and how did his confession impact the case? Number 2. The legacy of Gary Ridgway, lessons and changes in law enforcement. Gary Ridgway's legacy extends beyond his heinous crimes, influencing changes in law enforcement and investigative practices. The case highlighted the need for improved coordination between different law enforcement agencies and the use of advanced forensic technologies. Ridgway's ability to evade capture for so long led to reforms aimed at preventing similar cases in the future. Additionally, his case brought attention to the importance of focusing on vulnerable populations, such as sex workers, who are often at higher risk of being targeted by serial killers. The legacy of Ridgway's crimes underscores the ongoing need for vigilance and innovation in criminal investigations. How did Ridgway's case shape law enforcement practices, and what lessons were learned from his criminal activities? Number 1. The psychological profile. Understanding the mind of a serial killer. Gary Ridgway's psychological profile offers crucial insights into the mind of a serial killer. Ridgway's case has been extensively studied by criminal psychologists and profilers to understand the traits and behaviors that characterize serial killers. His ability to commit such a large number of murders while maintaining a facade of normalcy reflects a complex interplay of psychological factors, including antisocial personality disorder and a lack of empathy. Ridgway's detailed confessions and the analysis of his behavior provide valuable information about the psychological mechanisms driving serial killers. Understanding Ridgway's psychological profile not only sheds light on his motivations, but also aids in the development of profiles for future cases. What does Ridgway's psychological profile reveal about the nature of serial killers, and how can this knowledge be applied to prevent future crimes? Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please hit the like button and subscribe to stay updated with our latest videos on YouTube.